In 2020, if a company does not have any type of trade secret asset management policy, they're negligent. They are failing to take reasonable measures to protect their trade secret assets. It's that simple. Hello everyone, this is Mark Halligan, and today we're going to focus on U.S. trade secrets law. On January 29, 2016, Senators Chris Coons and Orrin Hatch submitted Senate Bill 1890 to the Senate, co-sponsored with a total of 65 senators, a literal majority. The Senate voted on the bill on April 4th, when it passed unanimously. By April 27th, it had passed the House as well, almost unanimously, with Representatives Thomas Massie and Justin Amash being the only nay votes. It's safe to say it was an uncontroversial bill, even in a time of extreme partisanship. On May 11th, President Obama signed the Defend Trade Secrets Act of 2016 into law.
I'm always happy when we pass bills.
Overnight, trade secret misappropriation causes of action went from impossible or impractical to pursue in the federal courts to suddenly something that was a new federal cause of action in the United States District Courts. The reality is before the enactment of the Defend Trade Secrets Act of 2016, after the years of effort through 3 Congresses since the 2008 Law Review article was written, it was the red-headed stepchild of intellectual property law. I mean, that's the reality. All of a sudden, the Defend Trade Secrets Act of 2016 put trade secrets on the same playing field as patents, copyrights, and trademarks. They now have access to the federal courts and the machinery of the federal courts, but they have much more. They have the predicate acts under RICO. They have the extraterritorial jurisdiction. We now have the tools to combat any type of trade secret theft, whether it be a single theft of a computer program all the way up to very sophisticated foreign economic espionage. You can now use the resources of the federal courts, the machinery of the federal courts, their outstanding law clerks, their the ability to serve subpoenas anywhere in the United States. We want to have the ability to protect our key intangible assets. If there is a situation where there's a theft of a critical trade secret of the company, we want to have processes in place ready to proceed to go after the criminal. I call it having a SWAT team. I've recommended for years, have your outside counsel ready to go. They've got to have them have a draft complaint, TRO, temporary restraining order, a brief in support of the TRO, have everything ready to go. And as soon as you get any sort of indication there's been a theft of one of your critical trade secrets, send the SWAT team immediately to the court. The problem, though, what we're seeing is that none of these things have done. There are no training videos. There's no onboarding procedures. There's no offboarding procedures. There's no internal system for determining whether something is a trade secret. There are policy documents that float around that says you're supposed to mark things confidential. There's also policy documents floating around that you're not supposed to use the company's trade secrets. But guess what? They don't know what the trade secrets are they're not supposed to use. And the confidentiality stamp, some documents that are stale documents are marked confidential but have nothing to do with trade secrets. Others are not marked and they are trade secrets. So the whole situation is in many instances at best embarrassing. And and again, if you really step back and look at this, everyone was focused on patents. From 1982 until very recently, patents were everything. We're going to patent any idea. And trade secrets, they were, whatever they are, they're amorphous. And, if a key employee leaves the company, we'll figure it out then. But, that approach really cannot continue to exist. you know, in an information-based society where 80% of the assets of new economy companies are intangible assets, most of those being trade secret assets. You need a system. You need a system for the identification, classification, protection, and valuation of trade secret assets. Whether you look at this as 4 stages or 4, the reality is what happens is companies adopt policies and procedures and processes, and they just keep layering on all of this, which they consider to be security measures to protect the trade secrets. But those systems are doomed to fail because you can't start at the protection stage. You have to start at the identification stage. And I've been through trade secret audits, and I've been through attempting to set up trade secret asset management systems and all that. If you start at the protection stage, the project is doomed to fail. Sometimes quickly, sometimes over a period of time, it eventually fails. Because it becomes like boiling the ocean and people aren't seeing any results from the program. They still don't know what the trade secrets are. They still don't have a protocol in place. They don't have the SWAT team on standby. They don't have any sort of system. And I cannot overemphasize this. Identification has to precede classification. And identification and classification have to precede protection. And identification, classification, and protection have to precede valuation. Can't mix them up. That's how you have to proceed. So knowing that, and knowing after 26 years of teaching trade secrets law and some 30 years of my career basically focused on trade secrets law, I know that to manage this situation requires the power of the computer. Everything else we do, from spreadsheets to all the modern things that the company has, not to use the power of the computer to help you with identification, classification, protection, evaluation of trade secret assets, to try to do this manually. You know what happens when a key employee leaves the company? Everybody goes into a conference room, they order Dunkin' Donuts and coffee, and they essentially conduct an ideation session to come up with what they think the trade secrets are that they want to allege that the former key employee took. They don't really know what the trade secrets are. They try to create them right at that point in time. And then they get into litigation, and of course it all blows up on them because it turns out what they thought were trade secrets are really not trade secrets. I mean, the classic example that I always give everyone, and this is early in my career, I was ordered by the court to identify my trade secrets after the lawsuit was filed as part of a discovery order. So I go to the company to interview them to determine what the trade secrets are with my yellow pad and pen. And I go to see engineer number 1 and I ask him what the trade secrets are, and he gives me this quizzical look as to what are you talking about. But eventually he tells me it's these technologies, and I write them down on my pad. Then I go to see engineer number 2 and I ask him what the company trade secrets are. And again, I get the same quizzical look. But this time I say, well, it's these 2 technologies, correct? Oh, no. Those were disclosed last year in a technical paper that we presented in Canada. No, those are no longer trade secrets. So I scratch it off the list. I go to interview the next person, and I write something down, and I scratch it off the list. I realize at the end of the day I have a yellow pad of scratch marks, okay? And I don't know what the trade secrets are. I'm under a court order to identify the trade secrets that we filed a lawsuit over. So this is the state of affairs. Years ago, I wrote an article called The Sorry State of Trade Secret Protection. And honestly, hasn't changed. Now, what will change it is if you make this quick and efficient with the use of software. And that's why I'm very proud of the Trade Secret Examiner software platform, which has now been commercially deployed and which can provide a way to effectively identify and classify, protect, and value your trade secret assets. That's where we're at now. The tools are there. The companies haven't done the kind of due diligence on the administration of their internal trade secret systems. They don't have it. They call in one of the outside accounting firms to do a quote-unquote trade secret audit. They come in, they conduct interviews, and they put together a report. That report is obsolete on the day it's delivered because it's a snapshot in time of what they found from the interviews. Okay? Maybe it helps you demonstrate to management you're doing your job. But you're certainly not going to be able to have your SWAT team and your trade secret and be ready to go on a moment's notice. And we're back to conducting interviews again, and more Dunkin' Donuts and more Dunkin' Coffee to try to figure out what it is we're going to allege. And the federal district judges are starting to recognize that you're tying up the courts for 3 months, 6 months, a year, 2 years with trade secret litigation, basically flailing around to try to figure out what the trade secrets are that you're litigating and the evidence of wrongdoing, if any unauthorized acquisition, disclosure of use of those trade secrets. Once you figure out what the trade secrets are, using the liberal U.S. rules of federal procedure and evidence to just conduct depositions and discovery requests and interrogatories and requests for admissions, millions and millions of dollars, to finally get down to a list of, we're going to go to trial with these 6 trade secrets. I mean, are you kidding me? We just can't operate that way in the information age. We've got to have an accounting system for trade secret assets. We're operating under an accounting system that goes back, to the 6th century, invented by monks to keep track of their wine bottles, okay? That was great in the physical assets, that was great in Industrial Revolution society, but we're in an information age now. And most trade secrets reside in electronic environment. Most trade secrets have a short shelf life. Not every trade secret is like the Coca-Cola formula. I mean, there are trade secrets that have very active life for the next 6 months. They are going to need ultra security in order to protect those assets. So you have different approaches depending on the analysis, depending on what you identify to be the trade secrets. And blockchaining. Whoa, my gosh. The ability now to, with the push of a button, to be able to demonstrate that you had these trade secrets and you have this evidence, the metadata, existence, ownership, notice, and that, all of that's in the system, and the push of a button, be able to show the court documents, blockchain, and where it cannot be forensically challenged that you tampered with it or made it up or whatever. How can you beat that? That takes away millions of dollars in legal fees and expenses, millions and millions of legal fees and expenses to use the discovery processes in the U.S. federal district courts to do what you should have done internally. That is, determine what the trade secret is and what the evidence of misconduct is. That should be part of the pre-filing investigation, not the result of months and months of discovery. No, that's okay. The way I'm an extemporaneous speaker. Once I get going, I go.